All right, brother. So you came. This is a Dr. Dre type situation. I like to call it where you produce and host a segment that you kind of like came up with or put together, and you wanted to go inside the matchup and talk about the Cleveland Browns DBs up against the Detroit Lions pass catchers. I think before we go forward, it's good to go back a little bit. We both watched Detroit on Monday night against the Baltimore Ravens, and got to give them credit. Outside of that first game against Green Bay, that offense has been humming. And, they lost both their coordinators, but it seems like that Jared Goff has stepped in and just made sure that the timing with everything got back to where it needed to be, and they were still executing at a high level. I heard on a broadcast that, their head coach, Dan Campbell, was always in on those meetings. And so when those coordinators moved on, most notably the offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, a lot of people were skeptical of what the Detroit Lions offense would look like. Kind of got off to a slow start, but the last two games, man, them dudes has been humming. You look at the Cleveland Browns defense, I think it's the best unit in the NFL. I'm pretty sure you agree with that. Most national people think it's the best unit in the NFL, and it's dominated by our front seven. We know that. But our DBs is in for a real test this weekend when you go up against St. Brown, Jameson Williams, and the tight end Sam LaPorta, who can create mismatches on safeties and linebackers at any given moment.
Yeah, I think that those three names, they cause problems. They give fits, and as good as they've played, there's been moments that, over the careers that, games have kind of gotten away in the secondary, and I think that pass rush is going to be pivotal because that pass rush covers up a lot of things. This game, to me, is put on that D-line. They have to find a way to get home. You think about this last game against Baltimore for Detroit, I thought they did a really good job of bullying Baltimore. Like they ran the ball, did whatever they wanted to do. And then they got very creative in some of the plays that they called outside of the run game, but it all stemmed from them being able to run the football. So that front seven got to come ready to play. Just how they got Josh Jacobs out of the game, it's the same thing they got to do with, what they call them, Knuckles and Knuckles and Tail, whatever the heck, Sonic and Knuckles or whatever the heck they going by. They got to find a way to get those two guys out as well. Got to keep those guys under wrap. Obviously, Jahmyr Gibbs is the speed guy. David Montgomery is the more physical guy. So this will be a big test for the front seven. But when we want to talk about the secondary, I think the matchups as far as who guys are guarding is going to be kind of interesting to me because typically you want your best corner checking their best receiver. So in this situation, you would want Denzel on Amon-Ra St. Brown. However, the problem with that is Amon-Ra St. Brown does a lot of work out of the slot, and that is not a place that Denzel is comfortable with. I wouldn't say he can't do it. He's not comfortable doing that. So honestly, in this game, I think it might be smarter for them to have Gnu kick down inside. So they've been running Gnu on the outside, Denzel on the outside, and Miles Harden or Cam Mitchell in the slot. If they run that and just play sides, they going to go to Amon-Ra St. Brown all day long on whoever they got in the slot. So I think this is one of those games that they actually have to use Gnu's versatility, which is good for him because now this is a guy that's on a contract year. This is a guy who's trying to make money. This is a guy who can show versatility. I think this is the game that he slides down to the slot when Amon-Ra St. Brown is in the slot and plays man or whatever the case may be on him in the slot. Because I'm not saying Miles Harden can't do it. I just don't trust him to do it. I think that he would be the guy that they would circle and they would go after. And I think if you go up against an experienced offense like this, they will find a way to be successful at doing that. So this is a big Gnu game. On the outside, on the other side, I would match speed with speed. J-Mo is not going to burn Denzel. So like that's not going to be the case. So I think that's the great matchup. But then you talk about Sam LaPorta dicing things up in the middle and doing the things he do. That's a Delpit moment. Delpit obviously showed you how smart he is. He had the great pick that changed the game last week. He needs to continue to build on that momentum. I think Delpit is as good as any safety that can play tight ends man to man. He's really good at checking guys. He should be able to handle Sam LaPorta. But ultimately, it comes down to that front seven getting the pass rush on Jared Goff.
So do you think it should be a lot of man-to-man? Do you think they kind of should like mix and match coverages? And then once they see what Detroit is doing on offense, because Detroit does use a lot of pre-snap motion to kind of throw the defense off. Once Jim Schwartz see the chess match that's going on early, How do you think the in-game adjustments should go?
So honestly, it really comes down to if you play man when you want tight coverage because you want the front seven to get home. You're sending blitzes and things like that. I know a lot of people run blitzes out of a zone, but the problem with that is if it gets picked up, you got guys that know how to sit inside zones. You know what I'm saying? So I think that this game should start off doing what they do, or you play man to man, and if they do motions, guys got to get on their horse. I broke down the was it Cam Mitchell or it was Myles Harden against Baltimore where he jogged over there and they messed up that whole thing, and Devontae Walker ended up scoring the touchdown on the 7 cut. If they're gonna run a lot of motions, like I said, they're probably gonna run it with Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's more G News speed because he's played inside of there. He knows the tempo of motions and he knows to get down and get set. I think as the game goes on, you have to throw Jared Goff a little bit off by sprinkling in some zone. I know we're not really good at zone because our communication is still not where it's supposed to be after I just said it for 4 years, but that's another story there. But I think that with the guys that they have, I'm comfortable playing man-to-man, but I just don't think you want to play man-to-man 70 snaps a game. I've never been a fan of that. I've played in a game where we've done that before, and I was not a huge fan of that. Yes, it clears up confusion and all those things, but it really is really taxing on your body. So you have to sprinkle in some of those zones, but that's something that you make at halftime. You make that adjustment at halftime because now you have, by the time halftime hits, we understand what the offense is trying to do. We have seen exactly what their game plan is. So now you can make the adjustments, be like, all right, if they come back to this, because you got the guy that's sitting up in the box, he sees everything. He sees who's open. So when somebody's open, say that Amon-Ra St. Brown was open on a play, but I don't know, the pressure got to Jared Goff and he couldn't get the ball to him. They circle that play. The offense and defense both in the box circle that play because they know that's a play that's going to come back in the second half of this game. We can get that. It was open. We're going to set it up, and we're going to come back to that. So now when you go make those adjustments at halftime, you make sure you throw this play up on the board and say they're definitely coming back to this play. So when you see this, make sure that we're able to play it. That's where you make the adjustments, and that's where you could play. All right, we was playing man in that. We could take it away by just playing cover 2, or we could take that away by playing cover 3. So that's when you make those type of adjustments. That's why they call it a chess move.
We talk about the Browns front 7. In my opinion, when you look at the Detroit Lions offensive line, I think this is going to be the toughest test so far this season for that front 7. How do you think, in the trenches, how do you think that matchup is going to play out and who gets the edge?
I think that is probably going to be it's going to be a stalemate. I think that they're going to create some seams. I mean, that's just naturally, this is literally one of the best offensive lines in the league. They're going to create some seams, but we're going to make plays as well. I think that ultimately it comes down to how much of the run game is being effective. Like if they create these scenes and they're gashing us, see, now that messes up the mentality of our defense because it's like they're gashing us. So now we got to be a little more aggressive on the run game. Now you're setting up play action and all the trickery stuff that they do. So it's imperative that front 7 finds a way to stay stout. With Malik Collins, especially Malik Collins and Mason Graham, they've been doing a tremendous job in that run game. Our linebackers, Devin Bush and Carson Schlesinger, has been incredible filling those gaps. We need a lot of that. Those guys have to do that because if they don't, it's going to make it very hard when they start play action and when that passing attack comes alive.
It's Wednesday before we move on. It's only Wednesday. You might wake up Sunday feeling different, but right now today, how you feel about the game? Like as far as who you think will win?
Right now, I got Detroit winning because our offense is not. Because Detroit you have to be able to put points up on the board, and as good as our defense is, I feel like it's only so much. You want to hold them. For us to win this game that we won against the Packers, we had to hold them to 10 points. You're talking about a team that averages 34 points a game. And we average 15. Like that's a major problem. They get to 21, it's going to be hard to come back from there with the way our offense is playing. So I think that right now, the way I'm feeling, I got Detroit winning this game.
Yeah, same here. I think the defensive effort will be there. I got to see more on the offense before I kind of go ahead and pick them and win another game. I think last week was one of those examples that this defense is good enough they might be able to win you a few games on their own, but Detroit is going to be at home. That offense is explosive. And, when you can match Imano as far as, okay, our defensive line is good, their offensive line is good, but their defensive line is good too. Our offensive line, not so good. So the challenges is going to be there, man. But I can't wait to see the game like any other team in Cleveland. You never know with the Cleveland Browns. They might surprise us.